And we're live.
Hey, Jeff McKinney.
Hey, Mom.
Crack open that Diet Pepsi.
It was interesting seeing on Twitter Jeff McKinney and Lori Budd having a conversation. It's like worlds are colliding.
We're bringing the world together.
That's right.
We're like Coke.
Hi, Grandma. Not just Grandma. Hundreds of people. Thousands of people.
Like I had this whole thing I was going to talk about.
Yeah. Leave it to kids to just kind of shoot all that to shit. Alex climbing under rock. You didn't even see him, did you?
No, I did.
Oh,
you know what was great? So he went climbing up that rock, right?
Right.
And I saw him in the camera doing it. I was like, So I got off the phone and then I went back. I'm like, hey, buddy, I get it. That's fun. But we're walking on a path that's like.
Where was it? Where was that? Was that up on Gold Camp Road?
No, that was Mount Coulter. It's down on south, down by Helen Hunt Falls and Seven Falls.
Oh yeah, that state park down there.
Yeah, North Cheyenne.
Right.
Coulter, I think, Mount Coulter.
Right, sure.
Yeah. So, but we're walking on a path that's like this.
Yeah. I saw that.
And it's like a 45-degree angle here and a 45-degree angle here. And so I get, spelunking and run around the rocks and everything. But man, if something goes wrong, like you're not
going to fall a long way and it's going to hurt.
You're going to go further. And so he's like, fine. Climbs down. We go like 10 more feet and my oldest goes shooting up. Alex was climbing on pretty solid rocks. My 10-year-old or 12-year-old goes shooting up gravelly hill. And I'm like, dude. And then there goes Alex right behind him. I'm like, whatever. Maybe I go home with less kids today. And so we get over there and Nathan's like, whoa, this is kind of slippery. I'm like, yeah, you guys need to get down. And so Nathan's trying to slide down. Alex starts trying to slow down and starts sliding. So here he comes, and he's coming right up on, like a 4.5, 5 foot drop. And so he gets to the edge, and instead of sliding off, he just fucking jumps. So he's like flying, again, it's this, and he's like coming down into it, and then he's got a big old drop off of rocks and trees after it. So I'm like, whoa, and like catch him. Then he got all bad because he was so embarrassed by it. But I was like,
yeah, that decomposing granite's like walking on ball bearings,
dude. I'm like it is so like it's fine walking on it, but you get just a little bit too much pressure that it can't hold. And
yep. Yeah.
I'm probably coming through super hot since I turned that volume.
No, you are not.
No?
Actually, no.
Okay.
All those Windows updates are pretty dope. Hey, Dimitri, what's going on?
Oh, we got Dimitri watching live.
Yeah. Hey, should I pull the corks on these Saisons right now?
Yeah. Dimitri commented on the dodgeball video.
What's his feeling?
I don't even remember. That was an hour ago.
Who's maxing out? I bet that's got to be. Am I the one maxing out? Yep, I sure.
Oh, yeah. He pulled the dodgeball reference. If you can dodge a wrench, you can succeed in life.
Dimitri just finished trial, so he's pretty pooped right now.
Oh, nice. Did you do well? Can you say? You probably can't say.
Did you win? He's a prosecutor. They always win.
Sent that motherfucker up the river.
All right, how's my volume now?
It's good.
It's good.
I'm just checking my levels. Test.
1, 2, 3. Test. Oh, let me get my mic over here. That should be better.
That's better. All right, I think we're good now. Test 1, 2. Yep, there it is. There's the too much.
Test 3, 4.
3, 4.
Test 5, 6.
All right, that should do it. Okay. Anything else before we go, guys? You all set?
I'm
think
good.
I am good.
You got your numbers?
Yeah.
All right. John, you're good to talk about Ballast Point?
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's recording.
I think it's pronounced Ballast.
Ballast?
No, it's not.
I'm muting my phone, Mom, so jump in the chat. Did you guys see that helicopter rescue today with the like 78-year-old woman?
No.
so they tried to helicopter rescue her after she fell and hurt herself like on a hike or something. And I don't know what happened, but you know how they lift them up in the bed,
Right.
you know, coffin almost. That thing started spinning.
Oh.
And they couldn't stop it. Like they said to sit there for like 2 minutes and it just kept going faster and faster and faster.
Oh,
like
God.
it was like a centrifuge by the end. And finally they just like flew off frame with their
It's a trail of vomit.
I would
throwing up.
I would have been throwing up everything.
I mean, how could you keep it down if you're spinning that fast, right?
Then we should start a death metal band just based on what we think happened.
All right. All right. All right. Here we go. Yeah, and Mom, it wasn't. All right, here we go.
This is Katie Wilson from LaRue Wines, and I'm here with the We Like Drinking podcast where you never drink alone.
At the sound of the tone, the official We Like Drinking time will be 5 o'clock. Commence consumption.
Thank you for joining us for the award-winning We Like Drinking podcast, episode 230. In this episode, we'll be discussing Ballast Point Blues, bartender Snoop Dogg, and you Saison, I Saison, we all Saison. So crack open your beers, uncork that wine, and let's get drinking. Oh, I got to apologize.
It's the time for the Saison of loving.
That may be a record for soonest time to get Jeff Solomon singing on the show.
The Saison is the raison.
First off, I'd like to apologize to everybody for my voice. Unless you like it, then
How
I'll just
about some smelling salts? Clear out those sinuses.
there you go. They're all clear now. It's just the after party of some allergies yesterday. So.
You could pave a driveway with that voice.
That's always what I've wanted to do. So you're telling me I can make my dreams come true tonight on the show. That's exciting.
I mean, it sounds like you did pave that driveway with your face.
It looks like it too, right? So, cheers, my podcast drinking friends, and welcome to Happy Hour 230 of the only two-time award-winning topical beer and wine education podcast focusing on Fune, right, Jeff Solomon?
Fun.
We like to have
Fun. We like to have a lot of it.
We do. And if by now you're listening to the show and you're like, man, this guy's voice, I need to hear this every week. Well, you can do that by subscribing to the show. Visit welikedrinking.com/subscribe. Click on your phone type and you can get subscribed to the show.
You know, there is one tactic that Solomon used to employ that I think is another thing, you know, we should be re-employing that, and that's taking your friend's cell phone and subscribing to the show for them.
Do that. I thought you were going to go back to insulting our listeners
Well, I was gonna say, if you're sick of hearing Jeff Eccles' voice, become a patron so this guy can afford some Robitussin.
Get the tussin. All right. What are we doing here? Oh, well, we've gotten through all that stuff. So I guess it's a time to find out who we're drinking with tonight. We have our prolific wine blogger, Jeff Solomon.
Hey, that's me. I'm glad I'm back. I missed myself last week.
Yeah, the show wasn't the same without you.
Are the probiotics back in balance?
Oh, certainly.
We've got our beer brewer, John Ruyak.
Hey, folks.
And I'm your host, Jeff Eccles. And tonight, folks, is our monthly drinking episode. It is upon us. And this month, we are tackling the Saisons,
Saison.
also
Saison.
known as farmhouse ales. These brews bring high fruitiness, low hop notes, and a dry finish to the party that we are about to have. So I say we just get into it. Guys, I guess we can walk through what we're drinking, but no tasting notes. So Jeff Solomon.
Yeah. I'm a knucklehead and my eyes got too big for my tummy. So I've got what many would say is the archetypal Saison out of Belgium. This is the Saison DuPont.
There it is.
And what is this? Like a 750 milliliter bottle at 6.5%. If that's not enough, I decided to pair Old World with New World. So I'm just going to call this the archetypal domestic Saison. This is the Boulevard Brewing Company Tank 7 American Saison Ale. Also in a big-ass champagne bottle,
Nice.
coming in at 8.5% alcohol. I picked a bad time to open unclosable bottles with a pregnant wife in the house.
Or maybe you picked the best time.
Hopefully I've got enough cheese to soak this up.
John, what are you pouring tonight?
So I'm going to be a bit of a purist this evening. I went and I brewed today. I brewed a honey pale ale. I had a very small 8-ounce glass of beer just to wet my whistle. And I went off to Total Wines to look for some Saison. And I was a little disappointed in the selection, but I did pick out a very light Saison or farmhouse ale from New Jersey. Damn, I don't remember the name of it. It was called Farmhouse Golden Ale, and it was 4.6%. And it had some nice iron notes in it, a little bit of that Canadian lager type of taste.
Okay.
A little bit of iron in the aftertaste. And I had that with dinner. I had a salad with dinner with a little bit of cheese on it. And then there's a well-known brewery here in Albuquerque called Bow and Arrow, and it's the only you can't see it, the only brewery in the United States that's owned by a Native American woman. And I've met her, actually tried to get some part-time work there when I was still brewing in Costa Rica. But they've kind of upped their game on their selections, but they have this red Saison ale called Coyote Cool that is a Brettanomyces Saison and dry hopped with Chinook hops. Now, I'll say this tasted good, but I'm not going to go into tasting notes, but dry hopping a beer that's made with Brettanomyces is kind of a waste of hops. You can't really taste it. But what I do have is the organic side of Saison DuPont, which is their for it, and it's all completely I don't know if you can see it. It's a organic produced Saison from DuPont, and it's made with all the same ingredients but organically produced.
Okay. Yeah, that's
organic water, organic yeast, organic cane sugar, organic barley and flaked wheat, and organic Saaz hops.
Righteous, bro. Righteous.
And
that clocks in at 7.7 ABV. Sorry.
Ooh.
No worries. I am going up to Fort Collins, Colorado, with the Funkworks Saison Belgian style ale. So pretty straightforward. They try to mimic the European style with this one. So we'll see how they do. And that's the only one I'm going with.
I've heard good things about them.
all the other Saisons that I was seeing, I saw, I think I saw the Farmhouse, but I've had that one before and didn't want to have it on the show. Everything else I saw was tangerine, dry hop, blueberries with cranberries and all this other stuff.
Yeah,
Didn't want to
there
do
was. Yeah, Firestone Walker had a couple of them that were peaches and something else, but they were like $12 and $13 a bottle. I'm like, that was for a 12-ouncer. I did pay $12 for this, but at least it's two beers. I mean,
yeah. All right. So excited to get into these and learn about Saison. Jeff Solomon, we're talking a little bit about this before the show. Not my most favorite style of beer that I've had, and it's been quite a while since I've had one because of that. So I'm interested to see if John Ruyak can educate me tonight on it. But first, let's get the education ball rolling with. Work it out, Solomon. Get loose. Eye the tiger. Here we go.
Oh, yeah.
All right, John Ruyak, what you got?
Okay, so we have wine, beer, or pop culture reference. And I'm going to give these guys a term, and they're going to try to guess whether it's a beer term, a wine term, or some sort of weird pop culture reference. So this week's thing is Empire. Empire. So EMPIRE. Empire.
Is that
right.
is that how you say it? Do you have to say it like Empire?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
It's the way it is in the dictionary. When I looked it up earlier today, I pressed the button and it pronounced it for me.
Okay.
When you press the button, it goes Empire. Okay. So
who you going with, John?
Solomon missed a week. I know he's itching to go, so let's go with Solomon.
So yeah, I guess my thing is you picked a doozy because when you say Empire, just because it's not like this uncommon, like weird word that we've never heard before. On some level, this is a question of what do we think John's intentions are? Is he thinking about his favorite TV show, Empire? Is he thinking about how Disneyland, they just opened up like the Star Wars land? Is he thinking about some sort of Star Wars reference? My feeling is,
what about Queensryche?
Sure,
Empire.
Why not? And so Empire of Blood was a great show on HBO as well. Little boring, kind of slow to get started, but once you were in, you were hooked. Now, here's the thing, though. When you give us something like that, it makes me feel like pop culture reference, you just got to exit out. And it's either going to be beer or wine. And I am going to go with beer because it just sounds like it's a hops variety. That's what I'm going with. Empire.
All right. I really don't think it's a hop variety. It could still be something in the beer universe. And you mentioned some really good pop culture reference, but something about John, but may not be thinking of, is that he's a huge baseball fan. And I'm guessing that he was watching some Cubs games this weekend. He was watching something out of Chicago. And if you grew up around the Chicago area, which I did several years ago, I still have the jingle stuck in my head from so long ago. 4588-2300 Empire.
Oh, Empire Carpets?
Empire Carpets, yeah.
No shit. When I bought my when we got our first townhome and we needed new flooring, I didn't have to look anything up.
No.
I just sung the song in my head and then I was good.
Yeah.
New shitty floors.
Yeah. So I'm guessing that they're either getting new floors or they watched a Cubs game and saw like 8 commercials for it, and he hasn't been able to get the jingle out of his head, and so he's throwing it our way. So I'm gonna say pop culture reference. Go ahead, Jeff.
I was just going to throw out one more thing. Our friend Dimitri is watching this live right now at welikedrinking.com/show on a Wednesday night. And he's saying It sounds like a hop, but that's too easy. He's thinking maybe it's a yeast strain.
That's a good call. All right, John, it was a good one. You got everybody engaged. So let's move on. We just won't answer it. We'll just keep it. We'll wait to the end of the show to answer it. No, I'm just kidding. Go ahead.
Well, the thing is, no matter what you guys answered, I could change my mind, right?
Right. And in all honesty, no matter what we say,
and who would know?
And we can
right?
all probably say we're right.
You would know. You would have to live with yourself, John.
Yeah, I'll just drink some more beer. Actually, Empire is, Dimitri, overthinking it, a hop variety from the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. It is of Swedish extraction, and actually, Bow and Arrow used to have an IPA made with buckwheat and Empire hops. So there you go.
One Jeff Solomon.
800 588 2300 Empire. It's actually called. They're actually called Empire Today. I just wanted to make sure everyone knew that.
All right. Welcome to the show, folks. I like these kind of shows. All right. Let's do this. Let's get some chit chat going about it before we get to the tasting notes. John, do you want to kick us off here?
Sure. I'm going to do something I haven't done before, but I usually use a couple of references for when it's beer month. One of my main references is Peter Jackson's The New World Guide to Beer. This is released in you can't see it, 1988. Michael Jackson, not the gloved one, but he was from England, and he is the I don't know, he's kind of the Moses of beer writers. I mean, he's just a nice style, an easygoing English style, some, that dry English humor, but very knowledgeable. And I just want to read something from the very, very beginning of his New World Guide to Beer. And this is 31 years ago that he wrote this. The world, I'm going to read this, and then I'm going to go to the Saison section. It says, the world always knew that beer was a noble and complex drink, but for a moment in history, that was forgotten. Now it's being remembered. In every country that can afford such luxuries, traditional styles of beer are being revived and new ones are being created. That's 31 years ago. It's still true now. And he probably wrote that several years before when you think about the publishing process, right? So let's talk about Saison. And I am going to read, and this, I think it's important because of the words that he says. And nothing else that I actually looked up really kind of did this for me. And the one thing I would say about Saison, and it's different than IPA, it's different than pale ale, it's different than stout. It's kind of like Kolsch. It's kind of like Scotch. It's kind of like Trappist beers. It's kind of like tequila. It's from an area, right? Saison was a style that was, or California Common even. When you think about drinking a California Common, you have to have an Anchor Steam. Now that beer's fallen off a little bit in recent decades, but so I think it's important to understand why this beer was made and appreciate it for the style that it is, even if we don't really care for it. All right. And I can understand why some people wouldn't care for it. But this is what Jackson has to say about Saison. Says seasonal beers for summer or harvest time are usually low or at least modest in alcohol and light to medium in body. Modesty can be measured only against what is deemed to be conventional behavior. Lovers of special beers in Belgium are accustomed to drinking strong, heavy brews even in warm weather. Just like me, as an aside, with my Russian Imperial Stouts when it's 90 degrees outside. Back to Jackson. Saisons are the summer and harvest specialties for French-speaking Belgium, the area sometimes known as Wallonia. In particular, they are made in Hainaut, or high naught, and especially in the western part of that province and in the bordering areas where there is a half a dozen breweries in this stretch of countryside and perhaps twice as many Saisons being found in Belgium as a whole. In tradition and to some extent in style, these are top fermenting counterparts to the Marzen beers of Germany, which are brewed in the wintertime to be consumed at the end of summer after the harvest. Saisons can vary greatly in gravity from 13 to 20 Plato, and that's 52 gravity points to 80 gravity points. And by extension, 4.5% alcohol all the way up to 7.5. Characteristics of the style are a powerful carbonation, a creamy soft texture, a full orange color, a very fruity and citric sourness, and sometimes a hint of iron and often spicy notes. It goes on. There's a lot of about crystal malts, and we've talked about crystal malts before, but they're highly attenuated in this. You don't get a lot of residual sweetness in these beers, and you should not. There shouldn't be any lingering sweetness on the palate for these beers because they were produced for the harvest workers, and they were to be consumed in August and September as both a refreshment and a restorative. And hey, if it's 7.5% alcohol, for a little bit of fun too.
Right.
So you take all those things in mind. I mean, you're trying to slake your thirst. You're trying to cut through all the gunk that builds up when you're, working in the fields and there's dirt in there. I mean, think about, it's the 1800s. It's even in southern Belgium in the summertime, it's in the mid 80s, high 80s. It's going to be rough work. So you're looking for a thirst quenching type of beer. So that's what these beers are about: the sourness, the high carbonation, which cleanses the palate, the high attenuation rate, in other words, low residual sugars, the use of basically noble hops, German noble hops, which tend to be spicy, Saaz in particular, Tettnanger as well. So, and what's interesting is that the yeast that these beers are made with are very specialized in that they can withstand extraordinarily high temperatures. And I was thinking about this today, and I was looking through some characteristics of the two liquid yeasts that are basically used to make Saisons here in the United States and are produced by White Labs.
Was that White Labs 456?
I don't remember the numbers, but there's one that does really well up to about 85, 88 degrees. And there's one that ferments pretty cleanly up to 95 degrees.
I was going to say, I was listening to a podcast of some brewers talking about Saisons today, and he was saying that he got his up to 95. Like, he let it spike on his own, and then he just kind of warmed them up a little bit just to see what they could do.
That's like an Albuquerque garage, right?
Right.
So, I mean, think about it. It's southern Belgium. It's northern France. It's hot summer. These are farmhouse ales. These are fermented in a barn, right? Barns aren't typically cool in the summertime.
Mm-mm.
I mean, unless you've tacked some hay to the roof for insulation, they're hot in there in the daytime. So they've developed these yeasts over generations that can withstand these things and still produce a somewhat clean beer. Sure, you're getting some fruitiness. What's the most important part is that even though some of these are high gravity beers, that high temperature isn't delivering a lot of fusel alcohols, those high alcohols that really burn your mouth on the way down, that kind of stuff, that is just really kind of unpleasant. And you don't get that in Saisons. So while it's admittedly not my favorite style of beer, I can see where it does what it was intended to do. It is a beer with a purpose. And
right.
that's I mean, every beer's got a purpose, right? I mean, but this is different. This was made for workers, kind of like the porter
Yep.
from the 1700s in Great Britain. This was developed for people that worked. So that's why I chose to really stick with not to say others aren't legitimate, but that's why I chose to pick one from that region this evening for the show.
Excellent. So what can we expect out of a Saison from a aromatic and flavor profile?
Well, it's going to be a little sour. You're going to get a little bit of that nip on the nose, right? When I don't know if you guys noticed when we first started the show, you first started the live, and I took the cage off of my beer, and I had refrigerated this for a couple hours. I didn't want it to get too cold. I think this beer should be consumed at 55 to 65 degrees.
Mm-hmm.
As soon as I took my cage off, a cork started coming out. You were doing something, Eccles, and I went, whoa! And I put my hand over the cork, and then I took my hand off, and I just slowly watched it inch out of the bottle. And then I don't know if you remember hearing the pop. It flew behind my my computer, and I've got the cork, but it started flowing out of the bottle. So these tend to be, even the Bone Arrow one from here in Albuquerque, it was bottle conditioned, thick glass, so it's going to be highly carbonated, and yet the mouthfeel should be somewhat smooth. I mean, a lot of that carbonation is going to rise to the top in the form of head, right? And that's why I chose an open mouth bottle, the Chimay glass from way back in the day. But you should get some citrus notes. You should get some spiciness from the German noble hops. It should be fully attenuated, as I said, not a lot of residual sugar, actually none at all. I mean, this is dry.
So kind of what I may be hearing is if Dimitri's going to run a marathon, he may want this at the finish line.
Shit, yeah.
Yeah.
He might want to, and I know you were talking about this range of alcohol. I was hearing a story that while there can be this range, and both of mine, I suppose, are on the higher end at 6.5 and 8.5, that, you know, the original Saisons, it's not unreasonable to think that they might have been at like 3.5 to 4%. So you could drink it while you were working. And so, right. You know, Dimitri, while you're running a marathon, the only problem is it's going to leak out of your fuel belt because of the carbonation. But I think it's a great way to hydrate.
Now, there's some flaked wheat in this. So these tend to be a little bit cloudy. And that also helps with the head retention for such a dry beer. There's cane sugar in it, which actually helps to accentuate some of the dryness, because cane sugar gets completely digested. That's like yeast goes for that first before it hits the maltose. It hits the sucrose first. So that stuff disappears. That's just that sugar to alcohol boom. So, and it helps to get the yeast kind of fired up. You can really taste, I mean, if you get the hoppiness, it's not an overly hoppy beer, but that's what Saaz tastes like. So this is if it's Saison DuPont that you're drinking, you're getting Saaz hops. And that's pretty familiar with, if you're a fan of Kolsch, which I am, it's a pretty similar hop characteristic.
All right. Jeff Solomon, did you have any questions or comments?
I did, but I'm also really thirsty. Maybe we could drink and then talk some more, huh?
Yeah.
Go for it.
All right, so I am drinking the originator, the one that cannot be duplicated, the Saison DuPont. This one right here, and I think it's important to state, this was bottled in March of 2018. Nice. I know that these are some, you know, I'm thinking about these were meant to be like for farmers and for workers, but I was noticing a lot of these bottles had, you know, there was I didn't pick it up. I saw that they had the brewery Saison Roux from 2015. And I was like, I don't know if I should get something that old. I'm sure they age just fine. But maybe as I'm getting into the nose, could you talk to me about age worthiness?
You know, higher alcohol beers are going to age a little bit better. Darker malts are going to age a little better. But when there's a little bit of sourness, a little bit of tart, that's going to age fine. The tartness tends to be re-eaten by the yeast. So it'll still be there, but it'd be somewhat subdued.
Gotcha. So on the nose, there is that tartness that's creeping up. There's some notes of honey and honeysuckle. Beautiful flowery nose. Not really a hot bite, more than anything else, like just these beautiful aromatics of honey. And I'm wondering whether or not, our friend Billy Belts of Lost Cause Meadery, I wonder if he gets down with these, because this is super pronounced honey on the nose. And on the palate here, by the way, color, just like bright yellow, orange.
Yeah, I was gonna say the color on that looks amazing. Like mine is not. Mine is definitely more just yellow, like lager kind of color.
Yeah, and the carbonation definitely high on this. I had the same issue that John did, where the cork is just forcing its way out. And when I poured this, you see how you're looking up at me. My glass isn't that full, but it went to the top with head when I first poured this, and so I'm expecting it's going to have a Kolsch-like or a California Common type of feel just with the bubbles, I'm assuming. But let me get into it and see.
Yeah, California Common would have a similar volume of carbonation. Kolsch a little lower.
Yeah, so what's nice here is where the honey and the floral aspects are really taking over on the nose. On the palate, it's, the carbonation is there, but it's not in your face. It's definitely gulpable in spite of the high carbonation. Getting a whole lot of that honey. I'm getting quite a bit of that Brett characteristic. I am getting that barnyard. I am getting that hay. I was thinking about how John was saying, tack your hay on the ceiling. There actually is evidence to show that in regions where they do tack hay on the ceiling, that cows have much longer necks.
Wow.
Is that maybe where giraffes came from?
Oh, certainly. I have to believe. Who'd have thought that giraffes had European origins? So I gotta tell you that I can see where somebody would want this as a beer while you're working, as a way to hydrate. I could totally get down with this while I'm mowing the lawn. And yet it's it's neat, those bready type of characteristics and that yeastiness. It really is it's a beer that you could gulp. It's also a beer that you could sit back and just kind of contemplate, just think about life. I definitely want to hear what y'all are drinking, and while you're doing that, I do have some soft, creamy Havarti that I'm going to get into.
Awesome.
Solomon, do you just have the one glass, or are you able to pour the farmhouse side by side?
I actually do only have one glass in front of me. It's bad radio to run to the other side of the house, so I won't do that. Only when I'm helping little kids who got lost, which happened one time on this show.
Right, that did.
Wait a minute. Right. Is there a cop knocking on my door to make sure the garage door isn't open too far?
All right, John. What? Let's get yours.
Okay, so I have the organic example of Saison DuPont called I would imagine Foray, which is, they speak French in that part of Belgium, Bologna. So mine's a bit more hazy than Solomon's. What I think happens is, a lot of the carbonation rises out into the head, so that's what makes it so kind of gulpable. There's still some retained gas in the beer. But for sure, I mean, I get in mine spiciness with underlying notes of honey. I don't get honeysuckle. I do get kind of a clover type of honey thing. And the only reason I say that, I wouldn't know clover honey from anything else, but I made honey pale today at work. That gets 30 pounds of clover honey in it, and it smells just like that.
I'm going to say mine's more of a buckwheat honey.
And that
we really should get Billy back on the show just to help with our honey.
Yeah, and I need another bottle that I can stare down into it for a while.
No, you don't. You really don't.
I don't.
No.
I'm gonna get an infection on my eye from honey yeast.
Totally off topic. I see that they just released like a limoncello inspired mead. It looks amazing. Okay.
Nice.
But yeah, so when I drink that, I mean, I had a lot of that carbonation rise to the top of the glass, and it's funny that sometimes you drink beer under the head, sometimes you drink beer through the head, and this is one of those ones where you get both. You're drinking it through the head of the beer, so you get a little bit of the creaminess of the foam of the beer and the beer itself. So I think that's really cool. Other times it just kind of floats and you kind of don't get that. So I think that's kind of neat, and that maybe that's a function of my glass. Very citrusy, a little bit tart, and I'm getting a little bit of that minerality. I mentioned the iron taste that I got in the American one I had earlier today, which was much lower ABV. I get a minerality out of this, but not iron per se.
Okay. That's cool.
How about you, Eccles?
All right. Well, with this Funkworks Saison.
Saison.
On the nose. What's that, Jeff Solomon?
Saison.
I get maybe a little bit of like almost a honeycomb, less than like the straight honey, but really like out of this, I'm getting like a truck ton of tangerine, citrus kind of notes.
Oh, nice.
Like it's really prevalent in the tangerine, and I get a little bit of that spice, and that's pretty much it. It's a lot of tangerine, and on the palate,
very prevalent.
Nobody likes you, Jeff Solomon. Just kidding. Everybody loves you.
Guess I'll eat some worms.
The palate kind of it mirrors the nose. There's definitely some tangerine components coming through that gives it kind of that lift of the sourness, and then there's that, I don't know if it's bready, but there's just this after that you clear out the fruit notes. There's this farmy hay kind of lingering thing on your tongue that just kind of like says, yeah, this is kind of an old world funky kind of beer.
So I don't get any quote unquote horsiness.
No,
but I get what you're saying. It's kind of, it's not clean. There's this funky thing to it. And I think probably with ours, Solomon, there's probably a little bit of Cerevisiae and some Brettanomyces both in these beers, is what I would venture to guess. And so you probably have that as well, Eccles.
but compared to like, again, from the education that you're giving us on this, I do see this like almost being like a lawnmower beer, a Tough Mudder kind of thing, where this would be really refreshing because it does have this tart kind of citrusy bite to it that would be really nice with that. There is that kind of lingering thing, but yet it's kind of clean. Like, there's not a big flavor profile afterwards, more of just a mouth feel. It's kind of left hanging out.
I get a very citrusy note out of mine. I wish it was more. I wish there was a name to it, but I don't. It's just citrus. For you, you're saying tangerine. It's just a general citric acid type of a profile that I get out of mine. So
it's like drinking a Diet Pepsi then.
Oh God, no.
Addition of citric acid.
It's like somebody just like crushed up some vitamin C tablets and dropped it in, huh?
Well, yeah, a little bit of Flintstone vitamin going on there. No, I don't get it. I don't get any of that at all. I have gotten that in a beer before, and that's don't like that.
All right, Solomon, do you want to get into the Tank 7 Farmhouse Ale?
Yeah. This is the Boulevard Brewing Tank 7 American Saison. This was brewed in November of 2018. I will say color-wise, the hue is pretty similar. This is a little bit hazier than the Saison DuPont. And again, this one is coming in at 8.5% alcohol. It does look like the head has retained just a little bit more. Then again, we were talking a whole lot more before I took my first sip of the last one. But let's get in on this nose here.
Can I ask a question, Solomon? Was that
go ahead.
Did that seem like it was a bottle conditioned weight bottle?
Yeah, it was. Like it had a cork in it. And I will say on the nose,
is John, do you know, is this a spontaneous fermentation beer, or do they inoculate this one?
I'm pretty sure Saison is inoculated.
Okay, all right.
But I think traditionally it may have been an open, so I think it was inoculated, and I think maybe that's where some Brett notes came in later on in the style. There are I did see some wild fermentation Saisons on the shelf today. But I didn't purchase those.
Okay, all right. Sorry about that.
The nose on this is funk to the unky. So it's got that Brett nose. It's got a little bit of that honeysuckle again. It does have maybe like some dried orange peel, but then also the first thing that I got more than anything else, it was like the combination of these aromatics, the amalgamation of it all almost comes across as like lemon scented laundry detergent. And I'm saying this like not to disparage it. Like it's not like, oh, I'm afraid I'm gonna die when I drink this. I'm saying it because that's really the sense that I'm getting. Imagine laundry detergent. I know this sounds crazy, kids. Laundry detergent that you would want to eat. Like that's what it smells like. I don't know what Tide Pods smell like. But maybe there's a point.
Maybe the
eating of Tide Pods.
So on the palate here,
I actually had this at the Blues Brews Festival last weekend, or 2 weekends ago.
Eccles was mentioning tangerines. And I'm saying right here, like that's totally what I'm getting. Like I am getting juice, I am getting pith, I am getting rind, I am getting zest, just totally condensed and stewed down together.
So is this would this be like a carton of cuties just boiled down to a single?
Yeah, like baked in the sun and then pounded out. Yeah. There's more going on. Just give me a second here. The carbonation to me is a lot more present in suspension. It is giving me more of like a California Common kind of belchy feel as I'm taking this one. It's definitely funky. It's got that Brett action going on as well. But I would say if Saison DuPont is the gold standard, I would say that this is not far off when I'm trying this American version in the Tank 7. Going back to what Eccles was saying earlier, he and I both were feeling like the similar thing. Like, gosh, it must have been like 5 years ago when Saisons were really hot, where like you'd walk into Trader Joe's and there were like 3 different sixers of Saisons from different American craft breweries. And I don't know how, John, how you feel about like adding spices and stuff. Like that's what I felt a lot of it was like these American ales where like they just added a butt ton of like cardamom and star anise to it. I think trying this Tank 7 here, I feel like they're at least staying true to style. Like there is some spiciness that's there, but it doesn't seem like fake and overwhelmingly like being packed in there. I don't know if Saison DuPont or if Boulevard adds other spices to it. It doesn't feel like they do. I was wondering if you could talk to us a little bit about added spices that some folks do and whether or not you're okay with that and whether or not they're really necessary.
There are breweries in Belgium that do add extra spices to their saisons. And as well in America, there's a Firestone Walker that does a stone peach saison, and others that I noticed. For this, I don't have a problem with it per se. When we did this, I wanted to present traditional saisons for people and let them extend that out to whatever they feel comfortable with. I think it's legitimate to do those things. I just think it doesn't serve the style all that well to come on and describe something that is, I don't want to say adulterated, but altered in a way that strays from the original, and let people judge for themselves by trying one and then going out towards those other things that extend the style, Americanized, if you will. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think it does.
But it's legitimate for Belgian brewers to add spices to their saisons.
Is it also fair to say that in Belgium in particular that Saison itself is actually like a pretty like broad category? It's like these are the styles of beer that we make in this area, and every house kind of has their own take on it.
No, there's not a lot of breweries. I mean, there's a boatload of breweries in Belgium. There's a couple of dozen that make saisons, and it's really kind of a backwater bucolic style, right? It's not Trappist, it's not Duvel, it's not Lambic, it's not the Flanders Red type of thing. It's beer for the peoples. This is what Budweiser was back in the 1800s, right?
Okay, but hold up. I am an educated man and I'm 40 years old. What does bucolic mean?
It's like when I can't poop and I start with a B. I'm colicky with a bu at the beginning of it. No, it's just something that's rural. It's something that's bucolic is.
Are you saying that people from the rural areas have colicky children? Is that what you just implied?
It could be.
Jesus.
All right. Well, on that note, anything else on the style or these beers, guys?
You like anything else? Try it and see what see how you
Try
feel about it for yourself.
And this is another one of the beers where I like what I'm having right now. I'm not sure I'd line up 2 or 3 of them.
Yes. Well, I will say, who makes Colette? Is that New Belgium or is that Odell? Comes in a yellow can with a silhouette of a farmer girl on it. I enjoyed that one. That seemed to be a little bit easier drinking. I think it was somewhere in the 5.5% ABV range. And I enjoyed that. I think that's a lawnmower beer.
Okay. All right. There you have it. All right. Which one are you pouring next, Jeff Solomon? What's going to be the one to wrap the show up?
I am continuing with the Saison DuPont because I could always get more of either of these, but I just figured, like Ruyak trying to stay true to the originators. I'm going with that. By the way, I heard a rumor that the reason why Saison DuPont exists, at least the current form of it, was there was a member of this family that was going to like leave the country, and their family, to convince them to stay, they bought this brewery and said, "No, dude, we bought this brewery. Stick around." And then that's modern day Saison DuPont, is to convince somebody to stay in Belgium.
I like it.
Yeah.
We got a brewery. Stick around. All right. Excellent job, guys. Great beers. Great discussion. I had a lot of fun with that. We hope that everybody will go at least give one a shot. You don't see this one a lot in bars, in taverns.
No. I do. I have seen Saison DuPont on tap somewhere here in Albuquerque, and I think it's Two Fools, where they make the good fish and chips. But they have like a boatload of. They've got like 80 taps.
All right. Well, cheers, guys. Let's move on from the Saison and get into the hard hitting booze news. We discussed interesting, noteworthy, or Snoop Dogg. So we're running long, which is no surprise with a tasting episode. So let's go with the quick one first and see how long it goes. Jeff Solomon.
My goodness. So Memorial Day weekend over the last
Oh, I'm sorry, what?
This guy with his gravelly bass lines. Memorial Day weekend has over the last couple of years really become it's become music festival weekend for a lot of folks. So in Northern California, a big thing that's been happening recently is called Bottle Rock Napa, which kind of seems cool, like overpriced music to go with overpriced wine, but it seems like a good time. Snoop Dogg played Bottle Rock this year, and while on stage, he had the officials from the Guinness Book of World Records document that the one Snoop D-O-double-G, along with his homeboy Warren G from 213, and celebrity chef Michael Vitaglio, they got on stage, and in a giant pitcher, they made the world's largest Paradise cocktail, coming in at 132 gallons. It consisted of 180 bottles of gin, 154 bottles of apricot brandy, and 38 jugs of orange juice, topped off with a giant ass pink umbrella. There's absolutely nothing else to the story but that. Snoop Dogg made the world's largest gin and juice. John, I just got to ask, with so much drama on WLD, are you down with that beverage from Snoop Doggy?
That made me ill just listening to he put into that. I just
fun fact that they didn't mention the story. Everybody that was drinking it didn't leave till 6 a.m.
or as Stubb would say, I don't know, like 5:30,
like
4 o'clock.
That just turns my stomach. Sorry.
I think it's great. Good on you, Snoop Dogg. The reason why I really wanted to bring this up, and this is where, sometimes we have little discussions like backstage listeners about, how can we get the listeners more involved in the show? And I think I've got this. They made a 132-gallon cocktail. Can't we collectively, and I might send this out to the tavern later on, can't we collect the funds to make a 133-gallon cocktail? If only to start beef with Snoop Dogg, we have everything to gain and nothing to lose.
Okay, let's think about this. That's 180 bottles of gin. So let's just say that's bottom shelf gin.
Below bottom shelf gin.
That's $4 a bottle. That's $720.
Okay.
We got 160 bottles of
Apricot brandy.
apricot brandy.
Oh,
That's probably $8 to $10 a bottle.
I don't know.
That's $1,800.
You get that
Okay.
stuff pretty cheap.
You can get apricot brandy cheaper than that.
Yeah.
And then
Okay.
38 jugs of orange juice.
Okay, that's $1 a piece.
So you're saying for about
That's $1,000.
hey man, we raised $2,500 and we get a world record.
Hey,
And we get written up in the same article with the name Snoop Dogg in it.
how much is the pink umbrella going to cost?
You know what's great? I am a high school teacher, so I will tell you the dirty little secret about high school teachers. End of the year, I end up gaining 11 umbrellas every year. Because by the time you're in a high school, when you forget your umbrella, you're too proud to go back and get it. So 11 every year, and I've been teaching for 16 years. You do the math.
One of those is pink. We have a free umbrella. Let's
That's
do
what
it.
I'm
then
trying
let's
to
do it. That seals it. All right, so that's the next thing that I may have to spearhead because nobody else will. Is that we're going to go for a world record of gin and juice, or should we just? All
Why
right.
do we have to even have the apricot brandy?
Yeah,
I say
let's make it
180 bottles of gin and 60 jugs of orange juice. We're good.
and one lime.
Yeah.
We got to make it a cocktail. There's got to be a garnish.
Yeah.
All right, so look for that soon, I guess.
And if it doesn't pass the fill line, I'll do a cannonball into it to raise the lineup.
Okay, there we go with that. So look for that soon, either on the tavern or all the social media spots. Look for our byline next to Snoop Dogg real soon. Snoop, we're coming for you, apparently.
We got beef.
All right, John. We got to try to keep this one short, but let's go ahead.
Okay. All right. Well, I really wanted to talk about the fact that Carlsberg finally admitted that their lager isn't the best in the world. So
breaking news.
But actually, Ballast Point has kind of hit some hard times, and I've got some thoughts on that. But they're closing down their experimental and barrel-aged operations to kind of cut costs. And there's a story on, it says, Ballast Point dulling, barrel-aged beer, veteran employees go down the drain. And what happened is here, Ballast Point is trimming costs, but they've got this special project place. I forget what it's called. I don't know, or Trade Street R&D Brewing Facility. But what they did, because they're trimming costs, they're actually broke open and flushed down the drain 1,300 oak barrels of wood-aged beer, just dumped and destroyed. And I don't understand. And the guy, this James Murray guy, says we don't have the sales force to sell obscure barrel-aged and sour products. But don't you think there's a market for a place as well known as Ballast Point to say, hey, look, I've got a case of the last thing they ever did in oak, and I'm going to be, they could sell it at a premium, and somewhere down the road, these people are going to be auctioning it off. It strikes me as just a really poor business decision. You don't think that somehow they could sell 40,000 gallons of beer in 22-ounce bombers of special product? It seems odd to me.
I mean, go ahead, Jeff.
It's interesting that you called it a poor business decision, like POUR. I get it.
Yeah, sure. There you go.
Okay, Eccles.
So, and you said that Ballast Point did this, and really they didn't.
Well, Constellation Brands.
This was a Constellation decision the entire way. I mean, this is purely a spreadsheet decision, right? When was the last time either of you bought a Ballast Point beer?
Been a long time.
It was maybe on tap at a restaurant.
Yeah, I agree. Maybe it's there like an IPA or something like that.
Yeah, like when you go to Red Robin because you think they make good food. They don't.
Their French fries are good.
No, that's bullshit.
So
sorry.
And even when I see Ballast Point now, it's a bottom shelf beer. It doesn't give prime location in the liquor stores I go to. This is just the corporate world embodied in every one of those barrels broken over is just the embodiment of the corporation takeover of these things. And yes, it's not AB, but you know what? Ballast Point has become irrelevant in my world when I'm looking to buy alcohol, and that's what they're seeing in the numbers. I mean, their sales have been down for 3 years.
Down 110,000 barrels.
Yeah, I mean,
if it's any constellation, for a while you could have been to a place where they would legitimately charge you $17.99 for a 6-pack,
and that's why they're where they are now. They overpriced themselves on a fad, and it pissed people off. That beer was never worth $16 a 6-pack from the beginning. It was, I don't know if it is now, but it was a legitimate $9 6-pack, but it was never $14.
And the other thing and they talked about this in the article, is the leadership of Ballast Point. What made Ballast Point, the vision that was Ballast Point, jettisoned with the sale and shortly thereafter. And not to mention, you can go even further down the rabbit hole of how important culture is to a small or medium size or large business. And they started taking away some of the benefits that they had, like a shift beer and different things and that not. They made Constellation, I guess I can't say that definitively, but it seems like the culture changed and made it an environment that people wanted to go to work, wanted to be creative, wanted to make something wonderful and delicious. And they turned it into a job, and people started punching time clocks, and leadership left. And when that much leadership and that much heart and soul is removed from a company, it's not going to do as well. And it's showing in the bottom line. And now Constellation is having to make poor decisions to get themselves back in line, like pouring down 3,200 fucking gallons of delicious beer. And you reap what you sow. Sucks to be you. I'm still not buying your beer.
You know what? You don't think you would have, hey, this was the last of the Constellation research project. This is 3 bottles of their barrel-aged robust porter that's going for $9.99 a bottle. I would have bought it.
Probably because I'm on this show. And
I could write it off.
That would have pinged my radar. But if I'm not like reading articles on booze every single day, that probably wouldn't have made my radar, and I'd be like, whatever, it's bottom shelf stuff.
Yeah, that's a shame, because some of the high gravity stuff that Ballast Point was making was quite good, and actually across their entire portfolio, I think I tried everything once except for the habanero sculpin, which they don't seem to want to make anymore.
It was good. Like their sculpin stuff was great. Like
spiciness varies by bottle.
I used to buy a lot of Ballast Point. Like I really, really did. And they've got great labeling. They had a wide range of stuff you could choose from, but they just are not on my radar at all anymore.
And this goes to the point. There was another article that said the top 50 breweries in the United States, 25 of them did not see a gain in production last year.
And
I called this 2 years ago.
did. You absolutely did.
It is going hyper local. It's the lizard tails, it's the black snouts, it's the Bosey brothers, it's all those places in all these cities where neighborhood brewing, it's really winnowing down to just creating that neighborhood experience that people want. And I think that's cool. And and we talked about that back then, that, equipment manufacturers have already started this a couple of years ago. And that's the way it's going. And I think that's cool.
Yeah, it is. But the Ballast Points, these mid-tier breweries are the ones that are going to suffer the most, because AB and Coors and all of them, they're going to be fine. And the local, hyper local breweries are going to do well. But these, we've talked about it, these Sam Adams, these Dogfish, these kind of breweries that are at this national, regional level, they're the ones that are going to suffer in this.
You don't get a personal experience by buying a 6-pack off a shelf.
No. All right. Anything else on this one, guys? Jeff, you looked like you had something to say.
I'm just saying, I think we just put the nail in the coffin to Ballast Point. You're done. You got the WLD backslap. You pop.
All right. All right. There you have it. In one episode, we called out Ballast Point and Snoop Dogg.
No, I love Snoop Dogg.
No,
I'm taking his
absolutely.
record though.
We're just coming for him.
Yeah.
On notice. All right. Oh my goodness. Like I said, folks, it's going to be a long show, but
we've had a couple of short ones, so then we got to make up some time.
Yeah. But it's going to be worthwhile because it's time for, which has become quite a often occurrence. Shows to know. So we talked about it a little bit last week. I just wanted to reinforce it a little bit this week. Grapes and Grains. We're always on the lookout for new shows or podcasts that live. And, I love our boozy world. I love reading about shows every day, articles. I love seeing stuff about us being best podcast.
Being like the greatest podcast of 2019.
But the ladies at Grapes and Grains are into their second season. And their second season is killing it, I gotta say. And we thought you should be aware of what they're doing. Join Laura and Tiny on their individual education journeys. Laura is studying to be a sommelier, and Tiny is working on both her beer judging and Cicerone certification. So she's dual purpose in this stuff. And the format of the show is they pick a topic each week. Like they did one week on high crimes or murder mysteries in the wine and beer world. And then they each go off and they come back with a story and they tell this story. The one Laura talked about Rudy, the wine counterfeiter, and Tiny had like a murder story over beer to go into. And so they talk about these stories. But the cool thing is that neither of them know what the other one's going to talk about. So they have you're asking questions while you're listening to it, and they're answering those questions as they go. So it's really cool. So check them out. Check out your favorite podcast catcher by searching up Grapes and Grain. That's plural grapes and singular grain. And great job, ladies. I'm loving the show. Yes,
I got a question. Is that the same Rudy who got carried off the Notre Dame football field?
No. Rudy Kurniawan is persona non grata.
Check out the Netflix documentary on him if you're
I have seen it actually. It's pretty crazy what that dude did.
Yeah, no kidding. It got away with for so long.
No kidding.
All right. Well, if we're challenging Snoop and we're burying Ballast Point, it must be
last call.
Last call.
That's right. Last call. Time to clean house and lock the doors. You know what we do, folks? We're looking for your help. So follow us on the socials. All right, let's see. I know it. 230 episodes. John, you're going to nail it this week. I'm not going to have to come back and remind you anything. You're going to hit it. If the people are looking for us on social media, what are the best ways they can find us?
You got on Twitter, that's We Like Drinking 1. That's the numeral 1. Instagram, it's We Like Drinking. And our private group on Facebook is known as The Tavern. And that's welikedrinking.com/tavern.
Yes. I did it.
I did my homework. I did my homework.
You are Rudy from Notre Dame now of the show, John Riga. If you're listening to the show and you're like, I got to give these guys a piece of my mind and let them know how awesome they are or how much we suck, either one, visit Apple Podcasts, leave us a big fat 5-star review or 1-star. No, don't do that. Leave us 5-star and then berate us. That's fine, but just give us the 5-star review.
Hey, did you see we just got another review?
I didn't check today. Do you have it?
Yeah. Notre Dame janitor, he says, you're 5 foot nothing, 100 and nothing. 5 stars.
And you're walking out of here with a world-class education from one of the greatest podcasts in the nation. All right. Jeff Solomon, if the wallets or if the purses are burning holes in our listeners' pockets, what should they do?
Hey, man, if you want to help support the show, we love that you're listening and telling friends, but you can always put a financial amount to that by visiting us at welikedrinking.com/pledge to find out how you could become a patron of the show through Patreon. It's really neat. I'm seeing Eccles and Ruyak putting some cool stuff up for our patrons on Patreon right now. And we'd love for y'all to check that out for as little as $1 a month. Come get with us at welikedrinking.com/pledge.
Yeah, it's been fun.
What's that?
Go ahead, John.
You can drive down into a canyon with like precipitous drops on the side of the truck.
Yeah, it's we to the patrons, we started this thing this month where we were like, let's do a video once a month just for the Patreons. And, kind of how we started it out, it was going to be a little bit more detailed, a little bit more in depth. And Solomon kicked it off great with his dashboard
confessional.
And we changed direction really there, but I really like it. And I really like to hear from our patrons. If you like what we're doing with that, we're going to try to do that almost on a weekly basis, just from each one of us. So let us know what you think. You can also find the show notes for this episode with the links or the stories or mentions we had at welikedrinking.com/episodes. Or if you're on your phone, diddle until you see some stars and then poke them. Right, Jeff?
Yeah, diddle and poke.
Diddle and poke. Well, if we're talking about diddling and poking, it must be the time of the show where I get to say, okay, panel, let's take one last trip around this table and get some final thoughts before we shut off the lights. John Ruyak.
I was going to do something kind of profound or stupid or anything like that. But, today I was just like scrolling through stories and, I'm not a big fan of our president at all, but he was over in England and they were doing something for D-Day. And there was a gentleman from Great Britain, 99 years old, a survivor of Gold Beach in Normandy. Folks, you're listening to this on Friday, the day after the 75th anniversary of D-Day. Remember the people that sacrificed everything so that you can listen to this podcast.
Well said, John. Jeff Solomon.
You're all serious, and now I'm going to be a clown. Heckles, stop the music. With so much drama in the LBC, it's kind of hard being Snoop D-O-double-G, but somehow, some way, keep coming up with funky ass hits like every single day. May I kick a little something for the G's and make a few ends as I breeze through 2 in the morning and the party's still jumping because my mom ain't home. I got ladies in the living room getting it on, and they ain't leaving till 6 in the morning. So what you want to do? I got a pocket full of things that are good, and my homeboys do too. So turn out the lights and close the door. But for we don't love them corkscrews. I'm out the door. So we go smoke an ounce to this, G's up, and so and then the bounce to this, rolling down the street, smoking and dough, making record breaking gin and juice. Bring the music back.
All right. And I just want to throw a shout out to explosion.com for listing three of the top podcasts of 2019. We Like Drinking was one of them. So Nick, thank you very much for that. We appreciate that. There may be more, guys. There may be more listings of We Like Drinking as a top podcast in the world that we'll be sharing with you soon. And with that, let's say thanks again for joining us at the We Like Drinking podcast,
where you'll never drink alone. Who are you, Nick Julie?
Later on that day, my homie Dr. Dre came through with a gang of Tangeray and a fat ass J. That's the Bucolic chronic that made me joke. That ain't no joke. I had to back up off a bit and set my cup down. Tangeray in here, G's up, hose down now. Oh man. Okay, I'm good.
All right.
I'm golden.
Yeah, right.
There's a lot of hoe calling in this. In this era, I can't abide by.
That's because you listen to DJ Easy Dick. All right. Thanks, viewers. Bye, Mom.
Later.